Hello there, Dropped Out Dev here, coming at you. Hello there, Dropped Out Dev here, coming at you with a Thursday video, May 29th. I wanted to do a recap of some of the events that happened over the last couple assessment updates. So I got some questions that I thought were interesting, and I wanted to see if we could both give an update over some of the larger topics that have impacted our analysis, and then explain just briefly the thought process here and what we're doing here on those analysis things. So the question was on the last analysis video, which was mostly focused on how the escalatory nature of the act of charging a sitting Congress member with a crime in the course of their assigned duties. So the question was, what's up with like the other arrests and kind of like other issues? And because we're doing this assessment on the fly as things come up, it's very important to do things as they come out. And so if I'm looking back on our list here, the arrests of the judges was in April 15th. So that was a few assessments ago. And although those all impact, so we're looking at things as escalating. We put them in order as to which we thought might impact people more and might, feel like, okay, the temperature is raising in our pot of water. So we definitely put things in order ahead of time, and then we're going back to like when things happen, okay, do they fall along like the next level? Are we going hotter? So that kind of a thing is important. That's the analysis that we're doing in the short assessment videos. So that's why we don't like go into like, we don't go back during that process. We're just talking about like the news of the day for that week or that day. It escalated. Usually, if you look back to my how to analyze news and events, we sometimes let news stories sit for a day or two, both because we're busy analyzing other things and because that allows us to more effectively understand and analyze the events and the repercussions of it. So we lag behind a little bit on purpose. So those are kind of just some kind of key concepts. I want to do some more high-level videos on that will probably go in like the how-to section on why we're doing different things, how we do analysis for larger topics. We also do those on streams on Twitch. I can do basically an hour, once a week usually, and we do that. So join for those. Check those out. You might get answer your own question there of some of these larger topics, how we analyze those and what we're doing there. So that's kind of the overview of the process there. So we've gone as these events happen. So this is the date that the person asked the question, what about the judges? So we noted that on April 15th, increased tensions around extrajudicial deportations. That's when habeas corpus started to be suspended, okay? Even though they're talking about it in the future tense, hey, we're thinking about it. Well, they did it. Habeas corpus is meant to give any person, whether they're here legally or not, the right to have their case heard in front of a judge. And if they take someone off the street and then deport them without doing that, that is suspending habeas corpus. So that was in April 15th. And then they ignored judicial rulings. And then, let's see. Yeah. So then as we went along there, I mean, lots been happening. Everything's been happening, blah, blah, blah. Lots going on. And then in April 28th, continued prep. I mean, I guess nothing happened between then and then really that ended up on here. Maybe they did. Maybe we missed it. I don't know. And then we went through a big thing about watching this presidential action from April 28th. We are still looking for that. It would be wrapping up in July, I believe. So we're still looking for that. And then we had the Big Beautiful Bill went through, which has a lot of shenanigans in there, and I'm not a legal analyst on that stuff, so I'm relying on people to look through that and see what they see. So I do remember, this is kind of what they did, but maybe to a higher degree, because they have a little bit more support and control now than they did in the first Trump administration, is when they put those bills through, right before they're going to vote on it, they add stuff to it that is like in the House. When it's in the House, they add stuff to it that is like the worst of the worst stuff that they want to do. And they did that, it sounds like, with some, I don't even know what to describe here, but they added some stuff in, and then they passed it through. Then it goes to the Senate. Now, the Senate's not going to allow most of that stuff to go through. They're going to go back and forth a lot, try and get either the wording changed or get some of those things that they put in at the last minute, out of there before they pass it, stuff like that. And it'll be a process. It'll be a long process. They'll go back and forth to strip all those things out and try and strip it down to whatever they agree on or not. Now, whether it's going to get held up, it might come down to some Republicans putting their foot down over cuts to services not being enough because they don't want the budget to be affected negatively, and they don't have, it'll impact the budgets or it'll impact the debts because they're not going to be taking in enough revenue for the cuts to the wealthy that they want to put in there. So I don't know. That's what I understand about it. That's like a super high level. So that'll be important to watch. Although for the threat analysis, I'm not really putting that stuff in here. I'm not putting the legal stuff in here. I'm not putting the judges when they stop Trump from doing stuff. That's all nice and good to watch. But with him, especially with him already blowing past judge rulings and ignoring them, I don't know that it really helps out as much as people are hoping. But I mean, it does do stuff. I mean, it is going out there, it's good, but it doesn't make it to the threat assessment because I don't know, if we see some big change and some positive stuff gets rolled back, some stuff gets rolled back because of those judges' rulings, then yeah, absolutely, maybe we'll lower the threat assessment. But I still feel very high threat level, and those don't take away from it. Those don't make it the water cool off yet. Hopefully, maybe they will. I think one part of this is that Project 2025, which the Trump administration is following, has set in the kind of the general layout of that was to push as much of this stuff through in the first 100 days as they could, because I don't know exactly their words, I'm paraphrasing here, but they feel like after that 100 days, what they can get done slows down dramatically. So they push through as much stuff as they could in the initial 100 days. Have we reached a point where it's starting to slow down and the courts are starting to process this through, and the Supreme Court's taking up the cases, and this whole process slows down? I think there's something to that. And, could we stay at this heightened state as we are now and just ride it out for as long as we can, absolutely. That could be what happens. However, since we're right on the bleeding edge of what I think is, going to be tolerable for people, it's going to be very important to still prepare. Whether we're right on the end, we're doing whatever we can to prepare necessities, medicine, food, things that can help you if there's delays in getting medical care, and if there's any kind of disruption in logistics or anything like that. So that's what we're preparing for. If bills start going up and people start getting laid off in mass amounts, then it gets very hard for people to pay their bills and survive at that point. So those are the kind of things we're preparing for. We want to have the ability for communities to take care of each other. So, maybe the stuff's not for you that you're preparing, but maybe you need to give some to your neighbor or something like that. That's what we're doing. And building those communities and making them as resilient as possible. That's the goal. It's very critical that we do that right now. Regardless, if we ride this out the way it is right now, and it's still rough. It's still really, really rough. People are losing their health care. Marginalized communities are in terror right now. It is rough right now. We gotta maintain and ride this out, hopefully as good as we can. Alright, maybe we'll cut that out. That was a little bit intense. I don't know. Anyway, so what do we go over? We went over a few events that we've marked down. Over the last month. We've talked about a little bit about the methodology for this assessment part of it, which is to keep track of the escalatory nature of this administration. And I guess from here, the goal could be going forward, continue this obviously, but to continue to build these methodologies so that we can create a report of what is going on that impacts people, so that people can use that report to plan. To say, oh man, maybe something's going to affect my water in my town, so I'm going to need to prepare water or something. We can see a little bit ahead if we do a little bit of analysis. It seems like we're using these skills and we're getting, accurate assessments seem to be coming out of this process. And I'd just like to say that, I'm no genius. I will make mistakes. I will fail at times. And this isn't going to be perfect. And I think our question kind of called out that, how do you coalesce these larger issues that are connected? And, when you start talking about one, well, how do you reference other things that have happened as well? And so I think that's important. We do have a way to do that but that's a longer process analysis. And yeah, we've done it on stream before with another question that someone had, pretty similar, what about, we were talking about, the threat assessment, and then someone asked, well, what about this, and then that's they asked about elections in general, what about elections? How does that impact the threat? And yeah, it impacts it a lot. So, but it's such an interconnected and broader topic of all these issues and all these different attack vectors that are being used against the concept of free and fair elections. So, taking the time to go through each one and like putting them in a report, it takes hours to do that. So, I mean, we are looking to do that kind of stuff. Having the questions come up, I think, is good because it allows us to focus on, what people are curious about, what people find they have some anxiety about or they want to have, fleshed out, so we can do that. However, I think these quick one or two topics as they come up is very actionable, and that's what I want to focus on, is actionable stuff that impacts us today, tomorrow. What are we going to do tomorrow if we escalate in one state? If there's an escalation of some kind, can come from a bunch of different places. We haven't talked a ton about escalation factors going from where we are now to where we are possibly. We kind of did on stream on Twitch, but again, that's a longer process. So rambling and rambling of the second kind, rambling of the third kind, and also rambling of the fourth kind. Anyways, what was I gonna go on? Oh yeah, going forward, I'm trying to do some more how-to videos. So I was thinking about I'd already took one crack at doing some tools, some OSINT tools and some analysis tools and thought processes videos. But I think I'll have to probably split that up because there's just tons and tons and tons out there. And I'm not an expert in all of the tools. I mean, there's just so many. We have this process over here, which that's what I'm focusing on. So I use tools to help analyze basically news stories at this point. Seems to be the most effective. And that's what we're focusing on right now. Could that change and we switch gears and focus on something else? It's definitely possible that those could change and the goal could change. Could be a moving target. So we're in a very difficult time right now, and information is critical to making the right kind of plans. Information is critical to reduce harm in our community, so we got to get on it. We got to get busy with this. So thank you, and there hasn't been anything from since the arrest of and charges against the congressperson. I haven't heard if they've been dropped yet. I should probably go and look for that. But most of the focus has been on the bills and kind of some pushback from some judges, and we're already seeing that they're going to raise that to the Supreme Court. So basically, Trump's lawyers are going to argue in front of the Supreme Court that the judges shouldn't be able to stop them if they break the law. So that'll be interesting. We'll see if they see how the Supreme Court votes, and if that even matters. They've ignored the Supreme Court. I don't know, if the Supreme Court says you can't, if a federal judge says, hey, you can't violate people's rights and deport them without due process, and then they say, well, we think we can, we're going to ask the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says you can't do it. They say, well, we already did it. So, I don't know what you're going to do. And then they'll just keep doing it. So, I don't see, unfortunately, I don't see it being like a fix to the situation. But I'm hopefully, I'm optimistic. I could be wrong. I'm optimistic that I could be wrong. I'm hoping I'm wrong. And, I haven't seen anything that updates this threat from where we're at or decreases it. So we're leaving it here for now. But yeah, thanks again for the question. And yeah, keep them coming. Hopefully get a stream going here today or tomorrow. It's gonna be interesting going forward to see how this goes, because I got kids that are just going to be out of school, so that could change how videos come out, or when they come out, or if I'm able to do streams, or if I'm able to do it. So we'll see. Anyways, that was a long and rambly one, and yeah, I hope that helps. And yeah, that's it for me. Remember, though the storm is howling, we are going forward till the end. Goodbye.